It's time for Star Down, brought to you by the Big Green Egg, and that was the fan replay sponsored by Ciroc Vodka. We are all in studio for this Stormageddon Monday. Shan RJ Choppy, Cowboys insider Bobby Belt. I had one person hit me up last week on my Facebook page. Are you done slobbering over Jordan Love? You loving Jordan Love all year? Do you see why now? Not that I thought that was going to happen, and obviously dead wrong another year about the team that I wanted. When they got San Francisco first, I remember, yes, San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo in AT&T, take advantage. Wrong. All last week saying this team is going. Book it. We're going to Santa Clara for the NFC Championship game. Dead wrong, but I liked Jordan Love early on in the season, and I'm a big mechanics guy. I love watching athletes. I'm like, who does that guy look like? Kobe Bryant was the exact mirror of Michael Jordan technique-wise. He shot like him. He had moves like him. The fadeaway was like him.
He even said the word finals like him.
He tried to stick his tongue out like him.
Yeah.
He had the armband on the left.
Everything.
The left elbow like him. Jordan Love is Aaron Rodgers. Period. From the mechanics to the flick of the wrist to the quick release to the freak throws that he can make. And we were talking in the break. We're like, would that have been even worse against a team like San Francisco? And I said, no quarterback on earth was going to play as well as Jordan Love did yesterday. And what he did in shredding Dan Quinn's defense, 16 of 21 for 272, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The QBR was a 99. The QBR was a 99, and he just missed the perfect quarterback rating at 157.2. Jordan.
Oh, man, he was 158.3 late in the game.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the 99 QBR. Like, that was a playoff. Obviously not a legacy game because it's like his career's all ahead of him. His legacy could be over. But that was just a tremendous effort. You don't see quarterbacks win in their first start. In the playoffs. You just don't. We saw 2 over the weekend.
Let's keep it to the defense, Bob, with the star down. Dan Quinn playing zone, some surprising wrinkle. First game all year, I heard Wolchuk say in the Post they did not register a sack. Stephon Gilmore got left. Deron Bland. Jordan Lewis, effort issues. Trying to get Marquise Bell off the field, for God's sake. The J-Ron Curse crap, I'm so sick and tired of. The discipline, the penalties. There's a point in the game, right, where Greg Olsen, and he was right, he said, it doesn't matter if the Cowboys offense gets going. It doesn't matter what they do when this defense can't stop squat.
Yeah, there was at one point we were in the dining area of the press box, and somebody was I don't remember who
they
it
have
was.
cheese. They have a lot of random cheeses because they like to.
They did not. They didn't. No, they just had a burger as the halftime meal, so there wasn't a troll meal up there. Maybe that was the reason. Maybe that was the jinx. There was somebody had walked up to us. I can't remember who, but I was standing there with Clarence Hill and John Machota, and somebody was like, "Come on, Dak's got to make a play." And Clarence goes, "Yeah, Dak's got to make a play." He's like, "But like, what does it matter right now? The defense is not going to stop anybody. There's absolutely nothing going on." That touchdown to Musgrave.
Oh my God.
Oh, there's nobody within 30 yards of him. That just is a great example of how lost that team was yesterday. The Packers did a lot of things really well. That's great. The Cowboys went out there and on both sides of the ball just showed no effort. It felt like were a complete, schematic mess, had no clue what they were doing. And it was just, again, it was the dumb penalties. Look at the first drive. That game started off, all right, 3 plays, and they're all 3 for losses.
Idiotic.
It was, you get a tackle for loss from DeMarcus Lawrence. You get a sack on Love that gets undone because of the Deron Bland illegal contact. And then you get a 2-yard loss on Aaron Jones on the next one. And it feels like, oh, okay, they're swarming today. This will be good. And then it was all downhill from there. They were
Sam Williams.
There.
Don't forget that genius. The walking personal foul.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Sam Williams. And some Cowboy fans started trying to make excuses. Oh, what an acting job. Oh, he didn't even make contact.
Sure. Don't be there, though.
And all the excuse making quickly stopped.
Yeah, I mean, look, yes. Did he flop? Yeah, probably. You shouldn't be. I always wonder, why do they try to brush right? They rub him. All right, they go right up against him. Why? Well, just give the guy space. Don't be in a position where the referee could make a call.
I think the idea is that if you get right up on him, like you're rattling his nerves, he'll drop it. You can scoop it up.
Fine, but like, you could get right up on him without running through him.
Was the Musgrave touchdown, what was the most embarrassing play of the game? If we go around the room.
I don't know.
The most embarrassing.
I don't know. It was just like a 15-yard run. I can't remember what it was, but Aaron Jones just had a run. I remember watching, and I was going like, nobody's running. Like, nobody's trying. And I mean, they tackled him, but ultimately, like, you're watching it and it's like, this is, you got halfway to first base, and then you, like, kind of turned around and started going to the dugout. Like, that's what all of them were doing. It was just...
I really do want to see the yards of separation stats from this game. I really do. I want to know closest defender to Aaron Jones on his runs. I know they probably don't even have that as a stat. And I got to see the yards of separation for Romeo Doubs and Musgrave on that touchdown. There were points. Fox had to go to the overhead view for the Musgrave touchdown to find a Cowboy defender, to find anybody close. And Aaron Jones was walking through the middle of this defensive line.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me yesterday with the team, they're like, this is the CJ Anderson game. This is that Rams game in the playoffs where there was just,
I was there.
Where everybody's just like, where's the effort? Where is, this is so inexplicable. I mean, look, we can come in here and there's going to be, I know when we take calls later today, there's going to be plenty of people who go like, what are you talking about? This is the team we've known all year. They choke in the playoffs. They do this and that. I'm sorry, you cannot with a straight face tell me that is the same football team we've seen all year. You can't tell me that's the same football team we've seen for the last 4 years. Well, you can tell me that's the same team we saw in 2020. When they would do stuff against Arizona where they're just getting run after Dak gets hurt. When they go into Washington and they're just not defending Andy Dalton and they're getting crushed. That was the football team that I saw on the field yesterday. And they went into the game like that. It's not even like they need to be taken out of the game. They went into the game with no energy. And
I never like saying, sorry, Bobby, you go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, and then to hear Mike in the postgame show, and I don't know if they played the clip coming in here, but to hear Mike in the postgame show, and it's like, what was with the energy? He's like, well, I thought our energy was great. They just made more plays than us. Okay. Try and save your job. I don't know that quote's going to help.
I think when Mike and Dan say that type of stuff, it's a double-edged sword. It's, hey, we're players, coaches. It is a tremendous benefit if your guys love you, and you're never going to throw them under the bus. You're never going to take shots. I think the negative side of that is sometimes people can take advantage of you being nice. We all have it in our everyday lives and relationships. How many times have you said to your spouse or yourself, we're just too nice. We're just too nice. No one appreciates it. No one takes it, and people just take advantage of it. And I wonder, when Mike and Dan and Jerry never through the media drop the hammer, guys think they can get away with stuff. That's just a personality psychology thing. And the other thing I don't like to do is come in here most times and say, totally had them unprepared. Totally. That's a Philadelphia sports call take. You can say it today. Everything is on the table today. From Dan Quinn and Dak Prescott being on the take with the way that they played and planned, to Mike McCarthy, no preparation, to them quitting, wanting to get someone fired. Anything. That game was that awful. That game was that all-time bad. Anything that you bring up is on the table, and I don't think I'm going to say, come on now, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, I think anything's on the table in terms of not just that, like immediate post-game reaction, but I mean, anything is a valid discussion for the offseason at this point. Like for instance, I will obviously, because I believe in the player that he is, I'm going to argue for Dak Prescott. The conversation about, like, you've got to figure out a way to get away from Dak Prescott is the most valid it's ever been today. Like, that's the most valid time to bring up the talk and go, like, this is a legitimate question that you can talk about. I have a feeling about it, and I would come to a quick conclusion about it, but that's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate question about Dan Quinn. It's a legitimate question about Mike McCarthy. Everything about you want to ask about whether you need to reset something or blow it up is legitimate, because what they did yesterday is toxic and completely unsustainable if you want to be a contender in the future.
If you asked me to power rank who was worse yesterday between Quinn, McCarthy, and Dak, I don't know who I'd have number one. They were all atrocious. Every single one of them.
Take it to start down with Mike McCarthy. these runs, the plan.
I mean, I thought the plan was as bad as it gets. I mean, you're going to run.
Warren Sharp was annihilating Mike McCarthy online.
Like, they came out and ran on 4 of the first 5 plays. Now, one of them was a pass that Dak ran it on. It was designed to be a pass. It was a scramble. But they, a second down, like 2nd and 10, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 11. I mean, they're running the ball. They're getting 1.5 yards a carry, or a play, I should say, on those plays. It was just unconscionable that they would go out there and do that. These are scripted plays. These are their first 15. And it's because of that they're down. And all of a sudden, there's that one, you find yourself back inside your own 10-yard line, and you throw a pass to Cooks and it gets picked. It was just the whole plan, the entire plan from start to finish, both offensively and defense. I don't know what the hell that defensive plan was. Running zone coverages out there, soft coverages.
How did they both go into their meeting rooms and come out with this? Not one, but two.
It was the most.
Two.
They were playing a very safe game plan. We're not going to take risks on defense. We're going to make Jordan Love pick us apart. He did. We're not going to take risks on offense and throw the ball over the field because Dak throws interceptions, Sean, apparently, according to Mike. All right? So we're not going to – he did yesterday. So we're not going to let him throw, and we're going to run the ball. Green Bay's not good enough to beat us unless we beat ourselves. That's the only thing I can think of because that game plan makes no sense.
Warren Sharp, numbers guy on Twitter. Mike McCarthy is hilariously bad. There have been 6 second downs, 5 run plays, 8 total yards on 5 plays. 1.6 yards a carry. Meanwhile, the one pass gained 22 yards. Second down plays, run. Pollard sets up third. Run. Rico sets up third. Run. Lamb sets up third. These are the scripted early plays. McCarthy is a disaster running heavy on early downs.
Look,
877-881-1053. We're going to open up the phone calls at 6:20.
Kellen wants to light up the scoreboard. Mike wants to run the damn ball. All right, he went with what he really wanted to do when it mattered most. This is, I mean, look, when we talk about not just the scripted plays, there was I can't remember what it was, somewhere in the second quarter, I think it was, where it's 3rd and 4, and they have Musgrave lined up out wide, the tight end, and they have Bland playing 15 yards off of him on 3rd and 4, and Musgrave just went to the sticks and stopped and turned around, and Bland cannot, it doesn't matter how Bland reads it, Bland can't drive on the ball that fast and get there to make a play if that's what they're calling. And they put themselves in these weird positions where they wanted to, and look, running the ball on second down, did it kill you so much? Because you went 10 of 16 on third down, star up to your third down efficiency offense. Great job there. Did it kill you in that sense? No, but just in general, the idea of we're going to go in here with a mode of attacking them with the run. It's Pollard got us here. We really got to ride him home now. We got to continue to do things. The entire way that you got to this point was by unlocking the passing offense, and the biggest vulnerability on Green Bay this entire week was the passing offense in the middle of the field, and they refused to go there.
That's all we talked about last week is Green Bay's secondary, Green Bay's pass defense. That's all we talked about.
You could feast on them.
Now, did McCarthy know that Dak was off early? And he was. Dak Prescott missing not slight misses. 4-yard overthrows. Even the completions, it felt like Ferguson had to go high. There were 3 other picks that could have taken place. He was awful. He was abysmal. He looked shook. He looked terrified. He was pressing, but he was off to mix all of it in together. It was bad. It was really bad. And maybe McCarthy's he's off. I still, after it's not working early and not running the football that much.
I mean, look, like I said already, I still believe what Dak can do, but I mean, he's completely earned the moniker at this point. This is a pattern now. He's earned the moniker of, you could say, playoff choker. That's what there's no other explanation for the complete collapse and the almost the rattled nerves that we see in the postseason each year. It's not just coincidence where it's there's this or that. There's no context explanation for what we saw there other than the stage was big. That's the only other difference that you can see there. That's the only thing that was different yesterday.
I was sitting there saying, is something wrong in their personal lives? Did some awful tragedy take place? Did Dak and CD have a Jason Kidd, Jimmy Jackson type squabble what is why are they fighting when they had an historic connection throughout the entire year? Why are you bitching and early?
Usually we do Dallas Cowboys thank you notes, but today, pink slip notes. Who are you done with after yesterday's playoff debacle? Now, I just want to read this one super quick if I can, Mike. Yeah. I'm not saying that this person said they're done with Micah Parsons, but the question came up. What about Micah Parsons? He runs his mouth the most and never steps up. In 4 playoff games, he has 1 sack. He's all talk, man. Here's the thing, and I know he'll point out that stats don't tell the entirety of the story. And I do agree with that, but I would look at the most pressures in the NFL. It felt like the Cowboys across the board defensively, their pressure game was pretty non-existent yesterday. Or you would look at double and triple teams that Micah faced that allowed Dorrance or Tank or whoever to get a straight path to the quarterback. And that just was not apparent yesterday.
That's where I'm at. I get Micah needed to play better yesterday, but Micah did draw double teams, which
and 2 penalties.
Other guys need to take advantage of, but he needed to play better too. The thing about that Micah after 3 years that I think we're understanding with him, because he's a little bit of a baby, to be honest, and Luka's getting better at this. I know I'm going to another sport here. Luka Doncic has gotten better at this year at 25 years old, and I think Micah next year will be 25 years old if I have his age. He has to mature a lot in this offseason because he's a horrible teammate. He's a horrible leader. When you lose or you don't have a good game, you can't have a me guy in there. When he's about to be probably paid the most in the NFL by any defensive player in the history of the NFL. And you know what? Somewhat deservedly so. But if you're not going to take the questions after a game like that and stand up, now all your role players, and I said this earlier on the morning show, but I'll reiterate it, all your guys that are making league minimum and stuff, you know what they're getting asked by Jane Slater and Bobby Belts or whoever? They're like, hey, where's Micah at? And they're like, I don't know. I'm not Micah's babysitter. Like, go find him. Now they're going to ask tough questions to you because now the leader decided to squirm out with the hurt guys because he's not brave enough and bold enough and has the guts to just stand up and answer the questions. Answer them like Nuke LaLoosh, if you never watched the movie Bull Durham. Give the most generic, basic answers, but you're there because then you're having to answer them, and that's your responsibility as a leader of a team because when you don't, now the crap players, and look, I'm not trying to crap on them. I was one of those in the major leagues. You're just a role player who's trying to hang on, get pension. You're trying your best, but you know, for Chauncey Golston's never going to be a great football player on a 5-year contract. Like, sorry, Chauncey, but keep surviving, brother. Now Chauncey's is having to answer a tough question. If Chauncey Golston answers that wrong, he gets released from the team. Not that day, but all of a sudden it's a black mark. Did you hear what he said about our offense or hear what he said about our coach or whatever? And you're like, crap, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't even want to answer these questions, but Micah Parsons left us. And now all of us role players are having to answer all the team questions, and you have to be really careful as a role player. If you answer them wrong, your career could end. And so he's just leaving his guys out to dry. That's horrible leadership, but I think he learned that from DeMarcus Lawrence, and there's not a man in that building. The Jones families are not a man when it comes to this, to stand up to their players and say, hey, never again.
Yeah.
There's no responsibility, but hey,
because it will happen again.
Micah is a great player. I cannot deny how great of a defensive player he is, and he did not have his best game yesterday, but he's a horrible teammate, and that can change.
All right. Holy moly. Coming out hot right there is from the 469. I'm done with Dak, Quinn, and McCarthy. No heart or leadership. Done with Parsons' mouth. He doesn't back it up. That's a really interesting thing about Dak's leadership is we hear that all the time. It feels like this is where the leadership would shine through the most.
Yeah.
And nothing.
I'm with you. Look, he did not play good. I'm not crazy about Dak as the future quarterback of the Cowboys. I think we disagree on this, which is fine. It's on opinions. I think he's going to be the quarterback for the next 5 years. I think you see it.
I no longer do.
Possibly different. But, like, I will give Dak this. If we're talking about the leadership of Dak stood up. He said he had a bad game.
He said he sucked, yeah.
He answered all the questions
agreed.
The best way that he could. He's not going to give us the truth on everything. That's not your job as a player to give the media and us the truth. Your job is to answer the questions the best that you can and get off the podium and say, I did my job. I did it Didn't do a good and he was honest how bad he played. Doesn't mean he's going to be good next time. I don't trust he's going to be good in the next playoff game he plays. Maybe he will be, but Dak's leadership, he has to become, I guess, smarter. I don't know. Would you say smarter in playoff games or just, what would the word be? Dak has to be what next time in the playoffs?
Because you don't just want me to say better. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, he played horrible. He admitted he played horrible.
Smarter is a good way to go because there were some of those throws that, like one of those interceptions, it felt like a response to, actually, this all ties in together from the 4-6-9. I don't agree with this, but I want to stifle people's opinions here. I'm done with CeeDee Lamb. He's a pouty-faced loser. Damn. Take 88 away from him. He doesn't deserve it. CeeDee Lamb was phenomenal this season. I understand people don't like the body language. I get that. And in fact, I think one of those interceptions was a direct reaction to trying to force the ball to CeeDee because something felt off between CeeDee and Dak.
The 2-minute warning pass? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I know afterwards, Dak said that those two were good. I believe he might have said, we're awesome. And they both just want everything to be perfect. And I do get that. Lord knows, Mike, you know how I feel about that, is I get like really upset or really down when something is not perfect.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're giving up. You're just frustrated. So I do see that CeeDee Lamb perspective. I understand how other people might read that differently.
I think maybe what this game exposed, besides at times lack of talent in certain areas like linebacker, is the immaturity of two of your young stars. We're talking about CeeDee Lamb. We're talking about Micah Parsons. It can improve. We've seen immature babies in all sports become much better leaders and much better responsible men. Right now, it's tough to say they're men. Yeah, they're getting paid like men. They're playing really good football on both sides. But are they leaders of men? No, they're not leaders of men. That can change. But right now, they do not have it in their arsenal as a human to be a leader of men. They are great players, and that can change. Now, who would be their mentors in that? That's an issue in the Cowboys organization. Who's man enough to lead them that's a lesser player or a coach and put their job on the line? Because if you do this wrong, you get fired. You do it wrong with an NBA player, you're immediately fired from the organization. But if you can do it right, you can help Micah and CeeDee become a man in the locker room and lead men.
From the 214, this is interesting. Not necessarily a pink slip, but the Jimmy Johnson halftime speech was the best part of the game. Let's go.
That's good.
Let's go to cut number 18. Jimmy Johnson tried to give a pep talk to the Cowboys.
But I'll just say this. Every single one of you know how hard we've worked. I don't need to have people pointing the fingers one thing or another. You get your rear end in there and you play the way you know how to play. We can win the game. We're going to open it up. We're going to go fast tempo. Defense, get after Jordan Love. You can't give him that much time. You do what you're supposed to do. We'll win this game.
I like that. Spoiler alert, they didn't do any of that.
Yeah, and I'm everybody deserves blame. It was weird that Dan Quinn never just said, screw it, send 7 and see what happens.
And the one time they did send a lot of heat, they were like, but drop Micah back into coverage on that second series.
It was a weird game where guys were getting, I call it high school open, watching high school football. Guys can get open by 5+ yards.
Yes.
And you're like, in the NFL, guys don't get open by this much, but they were in that playoff game.
From the 817, Sam Williams, you get the pink slip, you gone. From the 214, Curse has to go. From the 619, Quinn and Dak. And I did see somebody go, the better team won. But I'm not disputing that. It would be really hard to dispute that.
Right.
There's nobody who can tell me it's that emphatic. Like, there's nobody who can tell me the Packers are 30 points better than the Cowboys. I realize how the game ended up. I'm not disputing whatsoever the Packers are a better team than the Cowboys, because clearly you saw what happened yesterday. But nobody can tell me they're 30 points better than the Cowboys and have me believe it. I think that's the disconnect for a lot of people.
Yeah, maybe I'm too optimistic here, which is weird for me. But I guess if they played each other 9 more times, I would expect it to be like a 5-4 or 4-5. Like, I think that it would be a pretty even kind of 10-game series, and it doesn't matter. That's the thing. That's why we love football. Football's do or die. You get to this point, it's not a 7-game series. I like 7-game series more. I like baseball and basketball more than football, but I think our culture loves football more because you get to the do or die. There's no more. The Cowboys can't make adjustments today for game 2. It's over.
And from the 214, take away Dak's mistakes, and we have at least a chance, even with the defense sucking. That's why tomorrow I'm looking at it, working on it, and I'm going to try to present my idea of why it doesn't make the best football. It doesn't make the most cap sense, but I think it makes the most football sense long term for you to try to figure out a way to move on from him after next year.
So I think where you're at, Kevin, and I'm here with it too. I would love for the Cowboys to be great again and for me to fall in love again with that organization that I was a diehard fan of. But in my heart, I know Dak's not the guy.
Yeah.
I wish he was. He's a good person. He's good in the community. He seems to be a good teammate, a good leader. He stands up for his teammates. He stands up for himself. He's responsible. He's a lot of great things. I just think, unfortunately, he's just not good enough as a quarterback. And, he's in that category of good, but not good enough. And you know that those guys never win, especially once they get paid big bucks. Maybe Joe Flacco back in the day with Baltimore, he won it all. Before he got paid, after that, he got paid a big contract, and they could never really compete at that high of a level again because you lose approximately nowadays $40 million from your cap from like playing a rookie quarterback, from where Dak's going to get over $50 million if they do extend him per year, where a rookie quarterback gets somewhere 10 to 15 million in those first 4 years. So I hate it, Kevin. I wish he was better, but he's not. And I wish the Cowboys would move on, but not just the Cowboys. Most teams stick with Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott's until they can't play football anymore.
Just some of the staggering numbers coming out of this game is the Cowboys hadn't trailed by multiple scores in any home game all season. And then they found themselves down by 4 scores in the first half and in the second half. And the 27-point deficit was the largest they faced in a home playoff game, I believe, since 1969 against Cleveland. There were even a play that it wouldn't have ended up mattering at the end of the whole thing is Dak taking the sack after 6.5 seconds because he doesn't see Jake Ferguson for the first down. Like, I'm not saying, hey,
that was early in the game.
Yeah.
Maybe it changes a little bit of the momentum. Probably not as the game played out. But at that moment, Greg Olsen, I thought he did a great job of analyzing that. He's looking for Lamb. He sees Lamb is completely covered and gets shoved in the back. There's no way to pass it to him. But he sees Ferguson, and he just gave up. He just said he had time. He wasn't getting pressured into his face. He gave up on Ferguson, going to the left there to the sideline, and just said, I'm going to run to the right and see if I can get the first down. And he didn't come close to it. But then at that point, all right, screwed up, didn't stick with the route long enough. Rolled out to the right where your 2 best receivers went to the left. All right, still alive for 3 points. And then you just have to throw the ball away there.
Throw it away.
So you did everything you could do wrong on that play besides turn the ball over, you did. Dak Prescott did that on his own. That wasn't a bad play call. Ferguson was open for a 15-yard play, and he decided. So I know that Mike McCarthy could get fired and all of those things. What did Mike McCarthy do wrong on that play? He ran a route where Lamb was the first option, Ferguson was the second, your 2 best options, and Ferguson was going to be open for an easy. As long as you make the pass, you got a 15-yard play.
This name's come up a couple of times. We haven't talked about him a whole lot today. From the 214, Steven needs to give Jerry a pink slip as GM and hand it officially to Will McClay. But then on the other side, from the 469, Will McClay pink slip. Now, I will tell you this. Of all the people who are leaving, Will McClay ain't one of them, all right? Because he is entrenched in this organization. I'm not saying he's family, but they are very, very close with him. He's not going anywhere. It is a bad look when your draft class gives you, like, nothing for a chunk of the year.
This was a bad one. It happens.
Yes, and then especially this game. But I do wonder, because somebody texted in from the 972, their lack of real linebackers was exposed again. I'm not saying this would have changed the season, this game, whatever. People were amazed by DeMarvion Overshown in training camp. Like, amazed. Right. They were like, holy crap, this dude is going to be awesome. Could that have changed people's perceptions of this draft if they were like, I don't know about the first 2, but this one, holy crap, he's awesome.
Look, I'm going to say this about Will McClay. If you lose Will McClay or you don't have Will McClay, this will become one of the worst franchises in football. You will be dealing with 5-12s and at best 9-8s for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, that's how important he is to the structure of the team. I don't want to take anything away. Jerry does his thing. Steven does his thing. But if they don't have Will McClay, we've seen it. It's a total debacle. It ended up working out the one draft they drafted. Why am I drawing a blank? The center who ended up getting the crazy disease and had to retire from Wisconsin. Travis Frederick. Do you remember the debacle of that draft? Because nobody knew what the hell they were doing. And it ended up working out in the end because they were going to take a defensive tackle from Florida, if I remember.
Sharif Floyd.
And it ended up working out. And maybe that was a Will McClay year, but the debacles of the draft, and that's the only way the Cowboys really add talent, is they don't have a clue. Scouts, coaches, Jerry's on the phone with the dude who has a YMCA downtown that's Oklahoma State, and he's asking him what he thinks. I'm like, that dude's like a billionaire who knows oil. He doesn't know football players because he watches Oklahoma State. And that's the organizational flow of a Dallas Cowboys organization without Will McClay. So he does put things in order. He gives you a chance to be 12-5. He gives you a chance to win. So I understand the frustration with this year's draft class. It looks horrible right now. But a lot of his drafts are good, and it's really the only way the Cowboys consistently add talent.
From there, I'll remind you, last night, Dak said anyone who questions Mike McCarthy's future with the Cowboys should question his future as well. He says, add me to that list. He said all the success in 2023 was due to McCarthy. So that's Dak believing, and I guess that means McCarthy is his guy. So the topic there is, are you standing with them? Would you move on from both of them? And you can text in about that as well. But we have Jane Slater here on the Twitter X machine with a thread, and it's mostly about Mike. And we'll get to some of those other details if time allows here in this segment, if not a little bit later on. But she also has an anonymous player saying this about your coaches and the quarterback from Jane Slater, NFL Network, formerly 105 through the Fan. Another player was frustrated with a stubbornness to stick to schemes on both sides of the ball, motion offenses killing defense, and concerned that Dak panics when the first read is not there. Dun, dun, dun. That's the fuel that could turn into something, couldn't it? That's people are going to be hanging on to that nugget and criticizing Dak for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jane will put that out there lightly.
No. And, I mean, you can kind of see that. Yesterday, he definitely looked a little bit rattled. There's no question about that.
Played a lot of cover 4 against him yesterday.
Yeah.
Greg Olsen was describing like we're starting in zone and then going to match up in man as soon as we get the first guy into our area.
Yeah, they the first 3 quarters of that game, he caught it almost 50%. And what cover 4 does for you, it's quarters coverage. So just think 4 guys taking quarters of the field in the secondary. So you got 4 across the back, and then you take your 2 linebackers and you take them into the flats. So really what you do is you've got it's kind of a way of not giving you any, the vision part of it is you don't see, all you see is defenders, because everybody, it's across. It's the same thing that the Buffalo Bills did. It's that thing that it's almost like we always talk about the clog and cover. Instead of dropping 7, you're dropping, and they also played some cover 6, which is quarters, and then half on the other side. So it's another way of kind of confusing your looks. And so that's they made Dak have to read in this game.
Well, I mean,
that's what they did.
The television broadcast was detailing how what makes Dak great is his ability to diagnose pre-snap. And he kind of knows, like Peyton Manning did, here's where I'm probably going to go.
Yeah.
But the way that they were changing things quickly after the
snap.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, I think that's interesting. In that Ringer article that we highlighted coming into the week, cover 6 was, and it's not that Dak was terrible against any coverage, but cover 6 was the defense that gave him the most issues.
Well, the defense yesterday that gave him the biggest problem was cover 1.
Okay.
Was the single high stuff. His numbers against the single high stuff wasn't particularly good yesterday.
So
I think he was 2 of 6 or 3 of 6 against cover 1. And that's the first 3 quarters.
Is 3 of 6 better than average for yesterday?
Well, yeah, to me that's at 50% for him. Like I say, he was 9 of 16. The metrics will tell you against cover 4, he was 9 of 16 for 93 yards. against the cover 6 where we were talking about, which is the quarters half, he was 8 of 9 for 44 yards. The cover 1, which is single high safety, which he sees quite a bit. Well, teams really play cover 2 against Dallas because they don't want the deep ball, they don't want the deep shots. But he was 3 of 6 against cover 1 yesterday.
Yeah, so his receivers couldn't get open, and he was inaccurate. So you're not going to beat man coverage.
Yeah. How do you win with a quarterback like this? I think would be my question for the Joneses. Like, how did you think this was going to work this time? What you've seen now is multiple different coaches, multiple different coordinators, different sets of receivers. This is not going to work. If you want to try to win with a quarterback like this, you must be sure you're going to have a good running game to take the pressure off him, because you're going to come up against teams like this. And if the passing game is off, what are you going to do to change the defense? They had your number. What can you do? What is your curveball? What is your changeup? And it's nothing. It's 3.7 yards per attempt and running way too much on first down there from Tony Pollard. So to me, I say all of that because this conversation about Dak panicking if his first read's not going to be there is going to flow into a lot of criticism about Dak, about his shortcomings. But it's the front office that's putting him in this situation to fail. That's what we need to establish. Either change the quarterback, which they don't want to, or change your team building to make a team good enough that Dak could be the guy winning. I don't know. Is Jordan Love better than Dak? Yesterday, he certainly looked like
he was yesterday.
But here is another NFC quarterback that doesn't have nearly the resume of Dak Prescott beating him in the playoffs, and his team is going further. Is that the coaching advantage? Is that just the any given Sunday factor? I don't know. But I'm thoroughly convinced at this point that it's up to the Joneses to make Dak Prescott a championship quarterback. He's not going to get any better. And the evidence is probably there that teams are getting pretty sophisticated on how to confuse him. And it gets the biggest and loudest in the biggest games.
Yeah, the team building aspect of it is a great talking point because they basically put so much pressure on Will McClay and their scouting department to be gold every year in the draft. This was a year you didn't get that.
Yeah.
You didn't get productivity from your draft class this year. And maybe with DeMarvion Overshown, you would have. They certainly seemed like they had a plan for him. He was going to have a big role in Dan Quinn's defense. He got hurt. But you got nothing out of your first-round pick in Mozzie Smith. Schoonmaker didn't give you much. No. Maybe some of these guys later on, a Deuce Vaughn and Eric Scott, can they develop? Who knows? But this was one of the first years in a while in a string of really good drafts that they didn't get that. They didn't hit necessarily right out of the gates on some of these. And when you are going to use that as basically your only way of team building outside of, okay, we've got a perfect trade where we're giving up nothing and this team's taking a big chunk of the contract, so we'll do this with Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. You're not using every avenue for success.
Yeah, that's a great point. Your drafts have to be perfect, probably 3 years in a row. And they've had some great drafts recently. I do believe in Will McClay and the scouts a lot. Okay, Jane continues. To the fans who think this team has quit on Mike McCarthy, my conversations with players don't tell me that at all. Really interesting hearing them defend him, his culture, and how he's led them on the field and off. Their ownership of failing Mike is what stands out the most, says Jane Slater. Nuggets like wanting players on Saturday practices to bring their family so he can meet them and interact. Okay, meeting breaks to text a loved one and say thank you for their support. Preservation of their bodies with rest days. His love of players like none I've had before. Another quote, in order to be a great leader, you have to be a great man yourself. Mike puts it all out there for everyone to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, all great things, but they're going to measure you on these playoffs around here.
Yep.
They're going to measure you on championships. And I totally understand players and, their well-being and the understanding of, how they, in this day and age, you have to take care of them.
Relationship building is a big part of it.
Huge. You have to get this.
You can't lead with that.
Yeah,
though.
but you can't talk about how great this coach is with all those things and then not get it done on the field for him. You're letting him down on the field, Donovan Wilson, when you don't cover the tight end man to man. You might appreciate text breaks and how good you feel and days off and all that, but you're doing nothing to help your coach keep his job.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You can love your coach, but if you're playing poorly and it's going to cost him his job, well, then get ready for the alternative. Get ready for Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh. somebody that really doesn't give a damn about your feelings. You know, that's when you could talk really nice about your coach, but your guys are the responsibility of why this guy's either going to keep his job or lose his job.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. You know, nobody's saying anything bad about Mike. Hell, Mike comes on the air. He's funny. He's charming. He has a good time, you know.
Wins a lot of games in the league.
Wins a lot of games. I mean, he finds a way to win 12 games every year. Good for him. But ultimately, you've got to go play for him and win playoff games. And you guys laid a big damn egg yesterday.
And maybe you need a coach that the players don't love as much. Maybe that you're going to be buddies with, and you're going to get an off day here, and we're going to not cancel practice today, and we'll cut out early. Maybe you need a coach that's going to get in your face and say, go after yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Jordan Love completed 16 passes. Half of those had no defenders anywhere near the wide receiver.
True.
817 Gavin, it's the Jerry Jones factor and everything that comes with it. It's annoying. They need to mix it up now. Yeah, I think that'd be one thing if I was a Jones guy right now. I'd be like, man. 972, Gavin, you sound like an idiot. Stick to girls soccer.
Wow.
Well, I tell you what, I think I pretty much had this thing nailed from start to finish. Well, maybe not start to finish. I think I kind of took the cheese early on in the season after Giants and Jets. Maybe got me a little bit excited, but I shouldn't have. Okay. Yeah, Jordan Love and Dak, that's going to be an interesting one now. As Dak is heading for a contract, I think a lot of players and coaches are in very interesting positions now where this is the kind of loss that can sort of change the perception of who you are and what you are. Dan Quinn, is he still a hot name?
Yeah. I had one of my gang of 7 text me last night and say, you'd hire Quinn after that one?
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely not. But the Seahawks have begun putting out interview slips, and the first one is to Dan Quinn, according to Tom Pelissero.
Yeah, he's got some Zooms this week. I think Tennessee's involved.
Felt like he had some Zooms last week based on the plan that they came walking in the building with yesterday.
That would explain a lot. That was the biggest shock. Is Belichick in play now? We got to talk about that a little bit later on. Is Dak a no doubt about it? I heard Hagee express doubt this morning that Dak will still be the Cowboys quarterback 5 years from now. Now that's a new contract and maybe then some. But I do not feel like this organization is going to go away from what's consistently put them in the playoffs. And that's a combination of Mike and Dak right now, especially with 1 year left on Mike McCarthy's contract. I don't think they're considering it at all. I think there's going to be talk, and reading Jane's thing, it's more of like, as Jerry considers what to do with Mike McCarthy, I don't think he's considering anything. I think he believes Mike McCarthy has 1 year left on his contract. We had a pretty good thing going in the regular season. We'll try to ace the draft and find bargains in free agency and try to win a trade and be a little bit better next year.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. I mean, I would be firmly against it, but with all the sweet nothings that are coming out from players and stuff about Mike McCarthy, I could see Jerry being like, okay, cooler heads prevail kind of deal. But I just think the twinkle in his eye with Bill Belichick, he knows this is the one opportunity to get a guy like that. And if he thinks super highly of McCarthy, imagine what he actually thinks of Belichick, because he thinks McCarthy hung the damn moon.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
If that's the case, then what do you look at when you're looking at Bill Belichick?
Yeah. No, that's the interesting thing, because there's a GOAT factor with Belichick, and there's no way you can't be awed or lured into a little bit. And the idea of the splash from Jerry Jones, that's where I think hope for a big change could be.
It could be a perfect situation, because I think the negative with Bill is him as a CEO GM type guy. As a coach, I think he can get it done, and if he's willing to be like, hey, the scouting department of Will McClay, they're damn good, let them do their job, and I'm just going to coach, that could be a marriage that works very well.
Well, at his age, his carrot right now is trying to beat Don Shula's all-time record.
Yeah.
That's the carrot for him. Was it 16 games he needs to win, something like that? So,
and how big is the feather in your cap to bring a title back to the Cowboys?
Oh, that would be huge.
You want to talk about ending with a bang.
That would be huge.
Yeah.
The difference between him and Bill Parcells is Parcells had to come back because his wife took him for a lot of things in his divorce. He needed the money. And so Belichick doesn't need the money. He just wants to beat Shula, and he wants to coach.
Yeah.
I don't think Bill was interested in just, like I said, trying to coach, but we'd play this Hamlet routine. Oh, I want to coach. No, I don't want to coach. And Jerry got tired of that. You don't have to worry about that with Belichick. Belichick wants to coach.